We will begin with Section 1, Business Defaults. In order to access Business Defaults, begin by clicking on button number 15, the More Options menu. This brings you to the More Options menu where you will see Business Defaults as button number 1. Once you click on it, you will be asked for a password. Business Defaults is a password-protected area of the software, and only an owner password, not a manager password, will work to get you into Business Defaults. Once you enter the password and click OK, you will be taken into the first tab, the General tab of Business Defaults. One thing that is always useful to do here as you're reviewing the information in Business Defaults is to click on the blue Edit button in the upper right corner. Once you do this, you will be able to read the text slightly more easily, and you'll also be able to make changes easier if any of the information needs to be updated. Following along with your checklist, one of the first things to check is the franchise number. The franchise number is entered here and is the number assigned by the franchisor to the franchisee. This franchise number does print on daily paperwork, for example, the projection sheet, so it is important to be entered here and to make sure that it's correct. Another item that is important is the GoFigure customer ID number. This is useful when calling in for tech support, as one of the first questions that a tech support or customer support agent will ask is, what is the business's GoFigure customer ID number? This is where that information is stored. The remaining information on this first tab should be verified, for example, the business name, telephone number, email address, and actual mailing address. This does print on various paperwork that the member sees, for example, invoices, receipts, and the weigh and measure report. So not only is it a good thing to have correct, it's also a great advertising source for that reason. For example, if a member shows their weigh and measure report to a friend of theirs, not only will their friend be able to see how much progress they made, they'll also be able to see the name and address and phone number of the place where they made that progress printed right on the report. Next, we'll go to the Banking tab by clicking here on the Banking tab at the top of the screen. The things to look for in the Banking tab are the bank name, make sure that it's correct, and the routing number and account number. Just to be clear, this is the bank where the business at which you are mentoring has its primary account. This is where cash gets deposited. This is where checks and check drafts get deposited. This is where credit card proceeds go and EFT money goes. It's important to have this information correct because GoFigure does print a deposit ticket whenever there are paper money to be deposited. In other words, paper checks that were either printed as drafts or that were handwritten checks received from a customer, or actual paper money, cash. And invariably, does not matter how electronically connected a business is, eventually, invariably, there will be paper money, cash, and checks that business will receive. The iGoFigure software makes it easy to have these funds deposited into a bank account and does print a deposit ticket. And the deposit ticket does include the bank's name, address, account number, and routing number. The routing number of the bank and the account number of the specific account that business has. And they are correctly printed in the proper MICR font at the bottom of the deposit ticket. So be sure that this information is correct on the Banking tab. Next, we'll move to the Taxes tab. There are two basic pieces of information to set on the Taxes tab. It's very simple. At the top half, you specify whether sales tax is added at the time of the sale or included in the price before the sale. And there are examples of the countries in which each method is prevalent right there on the screen. So sales tax added at the time of the sale is usually prevalent in the United States and Canada. If you're mentoring in the US or Canada, that's the option that you should check. In most other areas around the world, for example, the United Kingdom, Ireland, New Zealand, and Australia, the tax is included in the price before the sale. So if something costs $10, £10, 10 euros, then that amount already includes the tax, and the amount that the customer will pay will be exactly 10, no more. If that's the case, iGoFigure is perfectly set up to handle tax in this manner and report all paperwork correctly. All that need be done is the option on the right at the top there should be checked, and then whatever price is entered will be the exact amount charged, and the iGoFigure software will properly compute the tax. At the bottom half of the screen are tax categories. Now, as a mentor, when you're mentoring at a business, the proper question to ask the club owner or manager is, how many different tax rates are in effect here? And usually the answer will be one. There's just one tax rate. We either Don't charge tax. Certain things, for example, supplements, might be exempt from tax, or if there is tax, then the tax rate is this amount, 8% or 10% or whatever it might be. If this is the case, and there's only one tax rate, then there should really only be two tax categories set, tax and no tax. Tax should be whatever the tax rate is, and no tax should obviously be 0. This way, any item on which there is tax can be assigned the tax category rate of tax, and the appropriate amount will be billed. And if an item is exempt from tax, it will be assigned the tax rate, no tax, and no tax will be collected or charged on that item. If there are two different tax rates, and this is the response that you get from the business owner or manager, let's say, just for example, that 8% is charged on general merchandise, but 6% is charged on supplements, then you should set up a no tax. You should always have a no tax with a 0% and the two different tax rates. So you might call one of them a supplement tax set at 6% and the other one called general merchandise tax, which is set at 10%. One of the things you may note as a mentor is that some users have gone into the system and set up many, many different tax categories. We've seen in various examples sometimes 10, 15 tax categories where users have gone through and set up a tax category for every individual item that they sell. This is not really the manner in which this feature was intended to be used. Every individual inventory item should not have its own tax rate, and if you are mentoring at a facility where you see many, many different tax categories, especially if you see many tax categories but all the same tax rate, you should highly encourage the owner to go with the minimum number of tax categories needed in order to effectively enter inventory into the system and sell it. The next thing that should be covered is commissions. And we'll click here on the commissions tab at the top, and you'll see that commissions specify the amount of commissions made by either a salesperson or a lead generator. There's a sales there in orange and lead generator in purple. Right now we're on sales. You can see that tab is just slightly taller, and there are two different types of salesperson commissions. Salesperson commissions for agreements that are sold, in other words memberships, and salesperson commissions for products that are sold, inventory items that are sold. Now, it's not mandatory to use this feature. If you are mentoring at a facility where no commissions are paid, then the base amount and the percentage amount should be 0. If you are mentoring at a facility where commissions are paid on memberships sold but not products, then the products base amount and percentage amount should all be 0, and the base amount and percentage amount for agreements or memberships should be whatever is in practice at that business. So this is something you'll need to discuss with a business owner or manager to see what commissions are paid to the salesperson, and are they paid for membership sold, products, and or both, and these items should be set appropriately. If we click here on the lead generator tab, we can also see that there are commissions that can be automatically calculated and paid by the iGoFigure software for memberships, for agreements sold by the lead generator. What qualifies as a lead generator is really up to the discretion of each individual business, but there isn't generally a lead generator associated with a product sale, only with a membership sale. So again, if the business at which you are mentoring does pay commissions to their lead generators for whatever they consider a lead generator to be, what you need to do as a mentor is find out exactly what are those commissions and then set them here. Now we'll go to the Units tab. This is not actually contained in your checklist, but just a great bit of information for you to know as a mentor. This screen here contains only the default. In other words, what is the most common at this facility? Inches, centimeters, pounds, kilograms, etc. It's important to note that this can always be changed at the individual member level. So these units should be set for whatever is prevalent in the area where you are. If a member comes in with a special situation, like a member traveling from overseas or abroad who doesn't understand pounds and inches, let's say, it's no problem. The weigh and measure report can be set to whatever units are the preference of the member for each individual member. And finally is the advertising tab. Again, this is not on your checklist, but as a mentor, just to explain you briefly, advertising sources help to clarify which one of several sources a member heard about the facility. In other words, you advertise in a newspaper, Well, what if you advertise in 2 local newspapers? Which ad is paying for itself? Now, the important thing to know as a mentor is this is an advanced feature. This is not something that you should be including as part of your regular mentoring work. As a mentor, when you're assisting somebody with the iGoFigure software, it's important to have these 9 steps that we have isolated through this checklist so that the business can be as effective as possible using iGoFigure. The software itself is very, very capable, has a lot more features than what are just included in this checklist overview, but these are the basic 9 to ensure that the business is running well and smoothly. Once you are finished with the business defaults section, click on Save, especially if you've made any changes, and then you can